Hey guys, Rob from Topside Studios here with a quick video on how to add 2D lighting to your project in Unity. Let's jump into it. So here we are inside Unity, and I've thrown together just a quick platformer basic 2D game where you've got a character that jumps around, crouches, just to show you how lighting can be added to a scene. So this is super basic. It looks pretty terrible right now, and we're going to jump into it and add lighting to it. So firstly, what you're going to want to do is go to a window and then Package Manager, and you might want to check that this is under Unity Registry so it shows all of them. You want to scroll down to Universal Render Pipeline or Universal RP and install that. On older versions of Unity, this might be called LWRP or Lightweight Render Pipeline. Once that's installed, we can close Package Manager. So now we have the Universal Render Pipeline, we want to create an asset for it. So to do that, we right click in our Assets folder, go to Create, Rendering, Universal Render Pipeline, and create a pipeline asset. This should create two assets, a render pipeline asset and a forward renderer asset. So for the next step, we need to go to Edit, Project Settings, Graphics, and then drag the render pipeline asset onto the box that says none. This should be the first asset that was created. That will be it for the project settings, so we can close them now. We now need to set the render pipeline to a 2D renderer opposed to the universal one that was created. To do that, we right click, Create, Rendering, Universal Render Pipeline, and then 2D renderer this time. I'm just going to name this 2D renderer. We then need to change the renderer on the Universal Renderer Pipeline asset. So if you click on the Universal Renderer Pipeline asset, and in the box towards the top that says Renderer List, you need to replace that with the 2D renderer just created. You can then delete the forward renderer that was automatically created. Now I quickly switch scenes to my second scene, as I've already done this for my first scene, but you just carry on as normal. So whilst the 2D lighting will technically work now, all of the materials within the scene were created with the default material, so none will show the lighting. So to fix this, we can do the following. Go to Edit, all the way down to the bottom to Render Pipeline, Universal Render Pipeline, 2D Renderer, and then you can click Upgrade Scene to 2D Renderer. If you want to upgrade your whole project, you can click that as well, but this time I'm just doing my scene. As you can see, everything on your scene will go black, there's nothing to worry about. If you look in the console, you'll see all of the sprites and assets that have now been upgraded to this new material that can display the light. So this is exactly what's meant to happen, and now we can start adding lights to the scene. So just a quick after note here, that is all you need to do to actually be able to use 2D lights within Unity. You can right click and go to lights, and there they are 2D. So if you want to just mess about with them on your own, that's all you need to watch, and you can leave. But I'm going to spend the next close to 10 minutes just explaining how they work and going over the different models if you want to stick around. So to do this, it's the same as creating any other object. You'd right click, but this time we can go into light. Make sure you go into 2D light, and this time I'm going to do a point light. So first, you want to change the target sorting layer to make sure that it's targeting the right layers. So change that to all, and as you can see, we now have a light in our scene. We can move around. I'll move out the way of my virtual camera gizmo here, and we have all the options on the right that we can change to influence this light. So firstly, you've got the inner and outer angle for the light, so they change the direction of the light essentially within the circle, and the inner has to be smaller than the outer. Pretty basic. Inner radius is the inner radius of the light, and outer, I mean, it's kind of pretty self-explanatory. You can mess around with it. It's just kind of two layers to the light. The inner layer is the area that will get the full intensity of the light the whole time, and then outside of that it falls off depending on what you set as the fall off intensity here. So the higher the fall off intensity, the quicker it falls off, the lower it falls off. You can also set the light order for different lights to overlay, as well as change the blend style for the light, although I tend to just leave this as default for all of mine. We can also change the color of the light, as I'm doing here, make it a red or an orange, or you know, kind of add a bit of a mood to the area. I think I'll go for an orange around here to try to make a bit of a dungeony, almost deserty vibe. So here we can change the intensity as well of the light. It's basically how bright it is. If you go too high, it does distort a little bit, so use that sparingly. And then volume opacity is the same, similar, so it increases the volume of the light within the area. So now I think this light looks pretty good. Let's add it to a sprite so it looks a little bit more in place in the area. So I'm going to drag my black lamp onto the scene, quickly change the scale and sort it so it's showing. And essentially, I mean, this is kind of just what it looks like. Just gonna pull the light directly onto it so it looks like it's emitting the light. And I'll make it a child of it, so if I want to add it as a prefab, it will come with the light attached to it. So let's jump into the game and see what it looks like with the character. And whilst the rest of the scene can't see, it looks pretty nice around this light now. And I think I'll just up the volume opacity a little bit to make it look a little bit more like it's glowing, and test that, and think that should look a lot better. So now the main problem is we can't see any of the rest of the scene, so a way to solve this is to add a global light. So the same, you right click, go down to light, be sure to go 2D and add a global light. This will just affect the whole scene and everything in it equally on every angle. So set the sorting layer to what you want, and I'd recommend a lower intensity to this. You can also change the color again and give the scene a little bit of a tint, which I'll do here. So the aim with this is just to give it a little bit of a tint so you can see whilst you're in the shadows, but not very much, just so you can get around. And jumping into game, it looks a lot better. You can just about see when you're outside of the light, and when you're in the light it's really clear. So this is kind of the look, and then the idea would be to add loads more lights on the scene so there's small shadowed areas, but you can still see in them between the lights. So going on to another light that you can create, it's called a freeform light. So this is same menu as before, and it's essentially what it looks and sounds like. It's a light that emits, so the point light emits from its point, so this light emits from the shape you create within the inside. So just creating a quick shape here, just a random shape, and you have all the same options as before. So the note here is everything inside the shape will be fully lit up, and then the outside of the shape it will fall off. So change the different intensities, change the shape. You can change the offset of the X and Y, so you can kind of make it look like it's shining in from a window, which is really cool with this shape. And again, you've got access to the color, you can change with the fall off, you can change intensity. So again, a lot like before, most of the settings are pretty intuitive to use and set up how you want them, and it's just a freeform shape. And then jumping into game, this is what it looks like in the end. So pretty similar to before, but with just a shape compared to essentially the circle like the point light is. So what I'm creating here is what I think is a really good use for the freeform shape. So this is just a small glow from beneath the map. So this is kind of showing if you fall off the map, you're gonna die or whatever will happen. Almost maybe like a lava pit effect look, or you could do like green for like toxic chemicals or whatever. So jumping into game here, that looks really cool as like a glow below the map, and if you fall off, you're gonna be reset up. And then quickly here going on to parametric lights, again created in the same menu. They are just shaped lights. It's kind of like the freeform. You have all the same settings essentially, except you change the sides and the angle of the shape, so the rotation, and it's just solid shapes. You can make squares, triangles, you can make pentagrams, you know, whatever you want here. Just super simple. Again, change the color, change the intensity, in or out, it's all the same stuff, so that's pretty simple to go over. So then lastly we have sprite light. So this is the one I personally have used the least and don't really know too much about, but from what I've tested, it's essentially just you add a sprite to it and it will make that sprite glow, or as I say glow, it will just light up that sprite with what you set the parameters to. So here I'm setting it to my black lamp again, and we'll scale it up. So as you can see, when I increase the intensity and change the colors, it affects the look on the sprite that I added to it. So I guess you can make something glow or pulsate, although there's a lot better ways to make stuff glow within Unity. So I wouldn't so much recommend this, but I can see it could have a lot of uses. It kind of looks a little bit opaque, kind of like a ghost or something. So yeah, it's also worth noting that the black, fully black that I had on the sprite isn't there anymore. That is say made transparent, so you can't light up black objects, I guess, because they can't emit light. So that's obviously makes a lot of sense. But yeah, there could be a lot of uses to this, I could see. So here, if I quickly show you a really good use of the point light as kind of like a beam of light coming down from the sky. So the idea of this is kind of in a dungeon. So if I set this up, spin it around, and this is where I'm going to use the inner and outer angle a lot here. So I'm kind of projecting the light from one direction down onto my scene. So again, throw the point light on, move it, flip it around to the direction you want using just the normal rotation of the transform. And then here, if we increase the radius, as you can see, it gives a really cool look as kind of spraying down from the ceiling. You could do this as just, you know, room lights from the ceiling of the room that are normally directional. And if we jump in game here and see what this looks like, it looks pretty cool. It's too close to the scene, so I want to increase that above the scene most likely. But yeah, again, this has got a lot of uses. If I drag this up a little bit and then make it a little bit more so you can drag also on just the sprite without messing around with the actual sliders, but to be more precise, the sliders are better. If I move this up here, change a few of these and test this out, and yeah, that looks a lot better. Almost like a god beam coming down from above, and I can see like a load of these in a row is piercing through the roof of the temple or whatever that is. Yeah, that just about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, guys, and be sure to leave a comment if you want me to cover any other elements in Unity. Catch you later.